This segment of Delmarva Life is brought to you by Peninsula Regional Medical Center.
It is a gene that everyone is born with and a disorder that your parents pass on to you. We're talking about Huntington's disease. You may have heard about the disease, things like it's a female-only disease, but guess what? That's not the case. Joining us today to explain more about it is Dr. Richard Bird, who is a neurologist with Peninsula Regional Medical Center. Thank you for joining us, Dr.
My
Bird.
pleasure.
So explain to me, define for me what Huntington's disease is.
Huntington's disease is a fairly rare and genetic disorder of the brain where you develop cognitive changes, personality changes, and it's a movement disorder, mainly characterized by a movement called chorea, which is a movement disorder of spontaneous movement, which usually begins very mild, but as the disease progresses becomes very severe and disabling.
Everybody has this gene.
Yes. We are all born with certain sets of genes. But when this gene is defective, this is what's passed on by your parents. So when you inherit the defective gene, you will therefore get the disease.
So is that the only way that you'll get it, is from your parents, from your lineage?
Correct. It's a genetic disease only. You can't acquire it from a virus and a medication, infection, or anything else. It's a genetic disorder.
What are the chances of that actually happening? In other words, if my mom has it, what are my chances of coming up with it?
50-50.
What if my dad has it? Still
50-50.
What if they both?
Probably 75% to 100.
So it increases if both parents have it.
Because you get a gene from each parent.
Right.
So if you get the defective gene from each parent, that's 100%.
So is there any way to test to see whether or not I could develop Huntington's disease?
Yes, they have identified what the gene is around 1993. They identified what the gene is. It's called the CAG triplet, which is a DNA segment that helps encode certain proteins.
Okay.
And we all have these proteins, and they call it a repetition or a triplet, in that it's repetitive in length, and you're allowed a certain length up to about 38. Actually, most people are under 28 repetitions of this gene. And what you inherit is a defective tendency to keep making more and more and more of that triplet in the gene, which eventually gradually destroys the normal function of this gene.
So if there's a 50-50 chance and I can be tested, why don't more people test?
To be honest, most people would really rather not know. It's an ethical decision. It's a very difficult decision because this is ultimately a fatal disabling disease. And it hits people most often in their 30s and 40s, occasionally older and occasionally younger. Many people really feel uncomfortable with knowing that.
That it could be coming.
And it could be coming. Most people would rather say it's 50-50, I'll take my chances, I'd rather not know. So actually very few people do it. It is a blood test, you can test for the gene.
What about a cure?
There is no cure. We cannot prevent the disease at all. There is treatment for some of the problems that it causes with the movement disorder and the behavior to an extent. But it's a progressive disease which eventually becomes disabling with dementia, severe uncontrolled movements. And what I'm talking about is movements, what they call choreoathetosis. It used to be known as Huntington's chorea. It's now known as Huntington's disease, where people may start out with little movements like this and ultimately develop severe, movements where they can barely talk, they can't control their movements, they're writhing and making faces and belching, and it's terrible.
Is that similar to Parkinson's?
No, Parkinson's actually makes you stiff and rigid and contracted like so. If you take too much Parkinson medication, you can get similar symptoms of chorea, because that's one of the side effects of the medication. If it's too much, you involve the same symptoms, the same system, but in a different way. With Huntington's, we actually try to make people more Parkinsonian by trying to do the reverse medication therapy to undo what we would normally be doing with Parkinson's, to try to send them the other way to make them more stiff and slow.
So it's a pretty fine balance.
Right.
To make it work Okay, so there's a treatment, is what you're saying?
There is treatment of symptoms. There is no treatment for the disease, and there is no cure. The only way to prevent it is do not have children if you have it in the family.
Really?
Really. And that is the decision all young people in the family must make at some point. And this is why genetic testing is recommended, but many people will opt not to have children and just adopt rather than find out whether they have it or not.
How about that? Because
the suicide rate goes up when people find out they have a terrible disease like that, and many people can't handle that.
And there's research ongoing on trying to find out exactly what can be done about it.
There's a lot of genetic testing going on where people actually, with genetic illnesses, they can repair the gene. They can inject viral particles into the gene and change the gene and correct the deficit. So they're doing things like that. They're doing medication, animal models, various things.
Dr. Bird,
they're a ways away.
thank you so much for this information.
My pleasure.
Valuable
My pleasure.
information. We appreciate what you had to share with us. And there's an upcoming event on Delmarva as well to raise awareness of this disease. So let's check in with Lisa to find out more about that.
Well, Jimmy, as Dr. Bird mentioned, Huntington's is a rare disease, but it's touched the life of one young lady here on Delmarva, and now she's working to spread awareness. Destiny Hand of Bridgeville lost her mother to Huntington's disease last February. Now she's working to honor her mother's memory while teaching others about the disease. Destiny, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon.
Yeah.
First of all, tell us about your mom.
My mom, she was very beautiful. She was always dressed to the T, as what I hear from many people. She didn't let a holiday go by without people getting gifts or candy or something. Every Christmas she would make candies and give them out to people. And she would always come to our school events, so she was very involved. And I'm sad that I never really got to know her because she was diagnosed with Huntington's when I was 5.
Right.
So I never really had a real relationship with her. Like, I know who she was, and I saw the wrong turns that she took because of the disease, but I never really got to have a real relationship with her.
Because as you got older and as the disease progressed, you noticed changes. What kind of changes did you notice?
Her speeching became more slurred, so it was very hard to understand her. And she had a lot of movements, so it was pretty embarrassing going into stores and stuff because people would be staring a lot because she looks like she's drunk, but she's not. So one thing I wish people would understand is that they would have more compassion instead of just staring and not understanding what the situation is.
Right.
And she just really went downhill.
Right, right. What was going through your mind as this is going on?
It was really heartbreaking because I know she couldn't help. Or as I got older, I realized that she couldn't help where she was, and she didn't do anything to have the disease put on her. And it was just sad to see her struggling just to pour some juice or to walk to the bathroom.
Now, as Dr. Bird mentioned, this disease is passed down from mother to daughter, father to daughter, from your parents or your ancestors. You can get tested to find out if you have it. Have you been tested?
I have not been tested. I am 17, and I don't believe that being tested will get me anywhere. I believe if I test positive that I will have a more negative outlook towards life and I won't be as involved as I want to be. But if I am negative, I know that's good news, but at the same time, I have my siblings who may have it, and I would feel guilty because I don't have it, but they do, if any of them have it.
Do you think that'll change? Do you think that you will get tested someday?
I believe that as I get older, maybe for health insurance issues or for issues with having kids, because it can be passed down to them. If I believe that I should be tested, then maybe I will later in life, but I don't believe that right now it is really going to help me in any way.
And your mom's father, so your grandfather actually had it, is that correct?
I never really got to know him because I was so young, but he did pass away quite a while ago.
What about your siblings? You have, what, 2 siblings?
I have 3
Three
siblings.
siblings, right.
I have an older brother, an older sister, and then a younger brother.
And there they are on the screen. Are they going to be tested?
My older sister and younger brother, I'm not sure where they stand about being tested, but my older brother, when he was younger, he really was looking into being tested. I'm not sure for what reasons, but right now he's not very open about it. I believe he doesn't want people to know when he wants to be tested, so he'll just kind of sneak in and get tested without telling anybody. He doesn't want people to look at him differently or to pity him if he does have it.
Now, you managed to stay positive. One thing I know, just getting to know you here in the past couple minutes, you're very positive about all of this.
I don't believe it's strength that I have given myself because I would be a wreck. God has definitely given me strength to endure the things that I've gone through and use them as positives in my life and not let them determine my future.
Now, you were doing something to honor your mother's memory. You're actually putting on a walk. Tell me about that.
The walk will be May 18th, which is next Saturday at Trap Pond in Laurel. The registration is at 8 to 9 and the walk begins at 9. There will be a basket auction. Different items will be put in different baskets to be auctioned off, so it'll be a little more of a fundraiser than just the big walk altogether. People can donate if they want. They can donate food, baskets, money, anything they want. They can also just come out and walk because there's a fee of $10, but that includes a shirt and the admission to the park, and the rest goes to the HDSA.
And what is the HDSA?
HDSA is the Huntington's Disease Society of America. Every state has a chapter, and so ours would be the Delaware chapter, obviously. And they try to come up with money by doing fundraisers, but there's not very many fundraisers, so that's why I wanted to put on this walk. They get together people in Delaware who are affected by Huntington's to have support group meetings when they can, normally once a month if they have a facilitator, and just to tell them about events coming up and to keep fundraising to try to raise money for
research?
Research, yes.
All right, Destiny, what an incredible story, and I just love your positivity, and thank you for coming in, and good luck with the walk.
Thank you.
And if you would like more information on Huntington's disease or for more details on the walk for Huntington's disease, go to delmarvalife.com and click on the show tab. Well, still ahead on Delmarva Life, scam artists are targeting seniors. What makes this generation so vulnerable, and what red flags to look for before making the next move? And later, many of us have been there wondering if our trees will make it through some of the storms we see here on Delmarva. We'll learn which type of trees tend to be the strongest and what the experts suggest you should consider. But first, moments ago we learned more about Huntington's disease. Dr. Oz has more on how your body could be giving you warning signs of other serious diseases.
Long before you're diagnosed with a serious disease, your body can send out subtle warning signs. Here are the three big ones. The first is a crease in your earlobe. This means your body is losing elastic fibers, which indicates a 33% increased risk of heart attack. The second is losing your sense of smell, an early sign of Parkinson's disease. The third is skinny calves. Research has found that calves less than 13 inches around may indicate an increased risk of stroke.